Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtota Rishata Shri Srimad Swayangrasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda So we're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 12, text 1. So this is, the chapter is entitled The Cleansing of the Gundicha Temple. Okay, so this is where the Gundicha temple is the temple where Lord Jagannath and Baladev and Subhadra are taken. There's the main temple, Jagannath Puri, and then they're taken to Gundicha, which is close by. It's like a mile or something. But that's the Rath Yatra procession that goes from Jagannath main temple to Gundicha. So this is they cleanse the temple before Jagannath comes. And Gundicha, as Narendra Prabhu was explaining last night, is representing Vrindavan. So it's like they're taking Krishna, Jagannath, and Baldev Subhadra back to Vrindavan, Gundicha. Okay. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the Gundicha temple with his devotees and associates. In this way he made it as cool and bright as his own heart, and thus he made the temple a befitting place for Lord Sri Krishna to sit. All glories to Gaurachandra, all glories to Nityananda, all glories to Dvaita Chandra, and all glories to the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, headed by Srivas Thakur. I beg their power so that I can properly describe Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned from his South Indian tour, Maharaj Prataparudra, the king of Orissa, became very anxious to meet him. The king sent a letter from his capital, Kataka, to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, entreating him to obtain the Lord's permission so that he could go and see him. Replying to the king's letter, the Bhattacharya wrote that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not given his permission. After this, the king wrote him another letter. In this letter, the king requested Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, please appeal to all the devotees associated with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and submit the petition to them on my behalf. If all the devotees associated with the Lord are favorably disposed toward me, they can submit my petition at the lotus feet of the Lord. By the mercy of all the devotees, one can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Without his mercy, my kingdom does not appeal to me. If Gaur Hari, Lord Chaitanya, will not show mercy to me, I shall give up my kingdom, become a mendicant, and beg from door to door. When the Bhattacharya received this letter, he became very anxious. He then took the letter and went to the devotees of the Lord. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya met with all the devotees and described the king's wishes. Then he presented the letter to all of them for inspection. Upon reading the letter, everyone was astonished to see that King Prataparudra had so much devotion for the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The devotees gave their opinion and said, the Lord will never meet the king, and if we requested him to do so, the Lord will surely feel very unhappy. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then said, we shall go once again to the Lord, but we shall not request him to meet the king. Rather, we shall simply describe the good behavior of the king. Having thus reached a decision, they all went to the place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There, although ready to speak, they could not even utter a word. After they arrived at Lord Chaitanya's place, the Lord, seeing them, said, what have you all come here to say? I see that you want to say something, but you do not speak. What is the reason? So the King Prataparudra is trying to meet Lord Chaitanya, and he's asking the devotees to give a letter to Lord Chaitanya. Nityananda Prabhu then said, we want to tell you something, although we cannot say without speaking. We cannot stay without speaking. We are still very much afraid to speak. We want to submit before you something that may not be befitting. The matter is this. Unless he sees you, the king of Orissa will become a mendicant. Nityananda Prabhu continued, the king has decided to become a mendicant and accept the sign of a mendicant by wearing an ivory earring. He does not want to enjoy his kingdom without seeing the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. And Prabhupada explains it in the purport that there's apparently some type of yogi in India who they pierce their ear, and it's kind of like, I guess, their sign. That's what he's saying. He said, I'm going to give up my kingdom and get an ivory earring. That's what King Prataparudra is saying, if I don't get to see you. So Nityananda Prabhu continued, the king also expressed his desire to see the moon-like face of Lord Chaitanya to his eyes' full satisfaction. He would like to raise the lotus feet of the Lord to his heart. Hearing all these statements, Lord Chaitanya's mind was certainly softened, but externally he wished to speak some harsh words. Lord Chaitanya said, I can understand that you all desire to take me to Kataka to see the king. Lord Chaitanya continued, what to speak of spiritual advancement, all the people will blaspheme me, and what to speak of all the people, Damodar would chastise me. I shall not meet the king at the request of all the devotees, but I shall do so if Damodar will give his permission. So Damodar Pandit, he's a staunch devotee of Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya is saying, if Damodar Pandit gives me permission, then I'll do it. Damodar immediately replied, my Lord, you are a fully independent Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since everything is known to you, you know what is permissible and what is not permissible. I am merely an insignificant jiva, so what power do I have to give directions to you? By your own personal choice, you will meet with the king. I shall see it. The king is very much attached to you, and you are feeling affectionate love toward him. Thus I can understand that by the virtue of the king's affection for you, you will touch him. Although you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are completely independent, still you are dependent on the love and affection of your devotees. That is your nature. Nityananda Prabhu then said, who is there in the three worlds who can ask you to see the king? Still, isn't it the nature of an attached man to give up his life if he does not attain his desired object? For instance, some of the wives of the Brahmins who are performing sacrifices gave up their lives in the presence of their husbands for the sake of Krishna. Nityananda Prabhu then submitted one suggestion for the Lord's consideration. There is a way, he suggested, by which you need not meet the king, but which you would enable the king to continue living. If you, out of your mercy, send one of your outer garments to the king would live hoping to see you sometime in the future. So he said you could send, like, whatever, one of Lord Chaitanya's chadars or something to the king. The Lord said, since you are all very learned personalities, whatever you decide I shall accept. Lord Nityananda Prabhu then obtained an external garment used by the Lord by requesting it from Govinda. Govinda is a servant. Thus Nityananda Prabhu delivered the old cloth into the care of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya sent it to the king. When the king received the old cloth, he began to worship it exactly as he would worship the Lord personally. It says the Guru, Vaishnavas, and the purport, Guru, Vaishnavas, and things used by them must be considered tadiya, and without a doubt worshipable by all living entities. So tadiya means things in relation to Vishnu or Krishna. So things used by them must be considered tadiya and without a doubt worshipped by all living entities. That's why if you go to LA, for example, they have a whole room, which was Prabhupada's room. And they have a bunch of Prabhupada's things in there. And also in Vrindavan, if you go to Vrindavan, and many places in the world, they kept Prabhupada's room. From the time he would spend there, even if it was just a day or two, they kept the room as it is in a lot of places. And in Vrindavan, they have a whole bunch of different things Prabhupada used. They have his cane, they have his danda, they have his just different things he used. They had some socks Prabhupada used from one of the airlines, and they have a bunch of things Prabhupada used, hats and all types of stuff. And they have it in glass cases, and people come and they look. Oh, look at that, those Prabhupads. So, yeah. What is it? My feeling about it? Well, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the purport's saying that those things are worshipable if it's used by Vaishnav. That's the point. So it's so Lord Chaitanya, he gave his chadar to devotees, and the devotees gave it to the king. So the king was very happy, and he was worshiping that. So therefore, Prabhupada's just explaining that everything's worshipable if it's used by a devotee or Krishna. So. After returning from his service in South India, Ramananda Roy requested the king to allow him to remain with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Ramananda Roy requested the king to allow him to stay with the Lord, the king immediately gave him permission with great satisfaction. As for the king himself, he began to solicit Ramananda Roy to make a meeting arrangement. The king told Ramananda Roy, Lord Chaitanya is very, very merciful to you, therefore please solicit my meeting with him without fail. The king and Ramananda Roy returned together to Jagannath Chaitra, Puri, Jagannath Puri. And Sri Ramananda Roy met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At that time, Ramananda Roy informed Lord Chaitanya about the ecstatic love of the king. Indeed, as soon as there was some opportunity, he repeatedly informed the Lord about the king. Ramananda Roy was indeed a diplomatic minister for the king. His general behavior was very expert, and simply by describing the king's love for Lord Chaitanya, he gradually softened the Lord's mind. Maharaj Prataparudra, in great anxiety, could not endure not seeing the Lord. Therefore, Ramananda Roy, by his diplomacy, arranged a meeting with the Lord for the king. Ramananda Roy frankly requested Lord Chaitanya, please show your lotus feet to the king at least once. Lord Chaitanya replied, my dear Ramananda, you should make this request after duly considering whether it is befitting for a sannyasi to meet a king. If a mendicant meets a king, this world and the next world are both destroyed for the mendicant. Indeed, what is there to say of the next world? In this world, people will joke if a sannyasi meets a king. Ramananda Roy replied, my lord, you are the supreme independent personality. You have nothing to fear from anyone because you are not dependent on anyone. When Ramananda Roy addressed Lord Chaitanya as the supreme personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya objected, saying, I am not the supreme personality of Godhead, but an ordinary human being. Therefore, I must fear public opinion in 3 ways. With my body, my mind, and words. As soon as the general public finds a little fault in the behavior of a sannyasi, they advertise it like wildfire. It's true. Even this was written many years ago, 500 years ago plus, and he's saying that. And it's maybe even more true now, especially with the advent of the internet and social media. People are very enthusiastic to show express their realizations about the faults of others, to shed light on the faults of others for the benefit of the innocent public. People are very enthusiastic, devotees, and people, they criticize Prabhupada's followers, his leaders, present-day leaders, for so many different things. I mean, you could hardly, you have a hard time looking up one personality and not finding 50, well, I'm exaggerating, but quite a few websites dedicated to blaspheming that individual, whoever they may be. They may be one of the most popular, and actually that's who they go for, the most popular ones. Popular means they have the most disciples, and they do a lot of preaching, a lot of traveling. So people, they go after those personalities. And And even, Hare Krishna in general, the Hare Krishna movement, right? You have a hard time looking at Hare Krishna without seeing all types of different things about, it's a cult, right? God knows what they think. God knows what people are thinking when they think it's a cult. I mean, what things do we do that makes it a cult? Cult usually means doing strange, violent things usually to yourself or others. So these people are fools. And even they go as far as, they have leaders, they have Hare Krishna movement, they criticize Prabhupada for so many different things. Even they criticized, sannyasis of the past, Madhvacharya and so on. You know why they criticize Madhvacharya? Because there's some pastime, I'm not exactly sure why he ate so many bananas, but he ate tons of bananas, right? And what type of sannyasi is eating so many bananas? It's like they'll find anything to criticize. So it's advised that devotees really don't get involved in all that. Whether it's true or not, most cases it's not true. A lot of these things they point out in others. They're just trying to exaggerate something. And even if it is true, what type of business do we have thinking of the faults of others? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he criticized that over and over and over again. He said, don't be absorbed in the faults of others, be absorbed in your own faults. It means think about your own self in relation to finding faults. So it's advised not to get into all that. It's actually very dangerous. But anyways, nonetheless, those who are leaders, also even religious people in general, they are also in the spotlight. It means anybody who identifies themselves with a particular tradition, by what they wear, and so on, they're also on the spotlight. So it says, as soon as the general public finds a little fault in the behavior of a sannyasi, they advertise it like wildfire. So that also goes for us, that people come to the temple, and if there's some fault within us, they advertise that. And I have experience, I know people who have come to this particular temple, and they found some fault and some behavior of devotees, and they just don't come around anymore. They say, I just don't come around anymore. You could say they're not sincere, you could say so many things, okay, fine, but they don't come around anymore because of some behavior, some discrepancy they saw. And of course they tell their friends that. So we also have to be careful. It's advertised like wildfire. It means it spreads very quickly. Ramananda Roy replied, "My dear Lord, you have delivered so many sinful people. This king, Prataparudra, the king of Orissa, is actually a servitor of the Lord and your devotee." Mahaprabhu then said, there may be much milk in a big pot, but if it is contaminated by a drop of liquor, it is untouchable. The king certainly possesses all good qualities, but simply by taking up the name king, he has infected everything. But if you are still very eager for the king to meet with me, please first bring his son to meet me. It is indicated in the revealed scriptures that the son represents the father, therefore the son's meeting with me would be just as good as the king's meeting with me. Ramananda Roy then went to inform the king about his talks with Mahaprabhu, and following the Lord's orders, brought the king's son to see him. The prince, just entering upon his youth, was very beautiful. Interesting. He was blackish in complexion, had large lotus eyes. The prince was dressed in yellow cloth, and there were jeweled ornaments decorating his body. Therefore, anyone who saw him would remember Lord Krishna. Seeing the boy, Mahaprabhu immediately remembered Krishna. Meeting the boy in ecstatic love, the Lord began to speak. "Here is a great devotee," Mahaprabhu said. "Upon seeing him, everyone can remember Krishna," the son of Maharaj Nanda. Mahaprabhu continued, I have become very much obligated just by seeing this boy. After saying this, the Lord again embraced the prince. As soon as the prince was touched by Mahaprabhu, symptoms of ecstatic love immediately manifested themselves in his body. These symptoms included perspiration, trembling, tears, being stunned, and jubilation. The boy began to cry and dance, and he chanted, Krishna, Krishna. Upon seeing his bodily symptoms and his chanting and dancing, all the devotees praised him for his great spiritual fortune. At that time, Mahaprabhu calmed the youth and ordered him to come there daily to meet him. Ramananda Roy and the boy then departed from Mahaprabhu, and Ramananda took him back to the king's palace. The king was very happy when he heard of his son's activities. Just by embracing his son, the king was filled with ecstatic love, just as if he had touched Mahaprabhu directly. From then on, the fortunate prince was one of the most intimate devotees of the Lord. Mahaprabhu acted in the society of his pure devotees, performing his pastimes and spreading the Sankirtan movement. Some of the prominent devotees like Advaita Acharya used to invite Mahaprabhu to take his meals at their homes. The Lord accepted such invitations accompanied by his devotees. In this way, the Lord passed some days in great jubilation. Then the car festival of Lord Jagannath approached. Mahaprabhu first of all called for Kashi Mishra, then for the superintendent of the temple, then for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When these three people came before the Lord, he begged them for permission to wash the temple known as Gundicha. All right, so here we go. This is Gundicha temple. Prabhupada says in the purport is 2 miles northeast of Jagannath Puri. You went there, right? Remember we went to the Jagannath Puri temple? Oh, you didn't go? Okay. So he stays there for 1 week. After 1 week, he returns to the original temple. Okay, so upon hearing the Lord's request for permission to wash the Gundicha temple, the Padacha, the superintendent of the temple, said, My dear sir, we are all your servants. Whatever you desire is our duty to perform. The king gave a special order for me to do without delay whatever your lordship orders. My dear Lord, washing the temple is not service befitting you. Nonetheless, if you wish to do so, it is to be accepted as one of your pastimes. So last night Nirantar was asking, so do you like wash the whole temple? Because Gundicha means the floors, the walls, the ceilings, everything. I said, do you wash the temple like this? He asked me. And then one devotee in the back said, she out loud said to him, we haven't, last that I know, we haven't done that for 25 years. That's what she said. And I said, wow, it's quite a long time, 25 years. I remember we used to on Mondays, this was years ago, within the last 10 years, Tirthamaj would have all the devotees wash the walls and the front, the patio and stuff like that. We would do that. I don't know if anybody got all the way up in those, crevices, just because there's a lot of crevices here in the temple. But I'm not exactly sure what that devotee was referring to when they said 25 years ago. I don't know how thoroughly a job they did. But I was thinking if on a yearly basis, because it is good to it is good to clean this room as much as possible, especially the temple room, because Gundicha Marjan is before the Rath Yatra, because they're cleaning the temple, and then Jagannath comes from the temple to Gundicha to stay. So if in this time frame, which happens on a yearly basis of 2 weeks, Hare Krishna. Good morning. You made it through traffic, huh? So on a yearly basis, this Rath Yatra is happening in SanDiego. Of course, it's small, but whatever, it's still Rath Yatra. But So within that 2-week period before the Rath Yatra, if we have a cleansing of the temple, like Gundicha temple, they had that in Laguna Beach, I think, or Los Angeles. I forgot where I saw it. It was Laguna Beach or Los Angeles. Had a big poster like this big, and it was a picture of Lord Chaitanya cleansing the temple with all of his associates, and then it said Gundicha Marjan, cleansing of the temple. And they were advertising that we're going to do that here in Los Angeles, in Laguna Beach, or wherever it was. So they did do it. So it's a good time because that's, the time, Rath Yatra, getting ready for Rath Yatra. So maybe we could do that, hopefully. I mean, I thought about all this when that devotee said, 25 years, it's been 25 years since we've done. I think, Jamal, you also mentioned that some time ago. To wash the temple, you need many water pots and brooms. Therefore order me. I can immediately bring all these things to you. As soon as the superintendent understood the desire of the Lord, he immediately delivered 100 new water pots and 100 brooms for sweeping the temple. 100. The next day, early in the morning, the Lord took his personal associates with him, and with his own hands smeared sandalwood pulp on their bodies. He then gave each devotee a broom with his own hand, and taking all of them personally with him, the Lord went to Gundicha. So Lord Chaitanya, all the devotees going to Gundicha. Similarly, all the devotees were also chanting at the same time, performing their respective duties. The entire beautiful body of the Lord was covered with dust and dirt. In this way, it became transcendently beautiful. At times, when cleansing the temple, the Lord shed tears, and in some places, he even cleansed with those tears. After this, the place where the deity's food was kept was cleansed. Then the yard was cleansed, and then all the residential quarters, one after the other. After Lord Chaitanya collected all the straw, dust, grains of sand in one place, he gathered it all in his cloth and threw it outside. Following the example of Lord Chaitanya, all the devotees in great jubilation began to gather straws and dust with their own cloths and throw them outside the temple. The Lord then told the devotees, I can tell you how much you have labored and how well you have cleansed the temple simply by seeing all the straw and dust you have collected outside. Even though all the devotees collected dirt in one pile, the dirt collected by Lord Chaitanya was much greater. After the inside of the temple was cleansed, and the Lord again allotted areas for the devotees to cleanse. So are you going to Jagannath Puri when you go to India? That's a plan. Okay. Yeah. So there's a big Jagannath Puri, the temple, huge temple, and then 2 miles down the road is Gundicha temple. It's still there. Of course, those of us which are all of us here, who were born in the West, we're not allowed into those temples. Anyways, but that's a whole other discussion. But they're there, and you could go on the outside of the temples and see them, and walk around and all that. So, yeah, you might have to, put a chadar over and whatever. I don't know. Decorate, make yourself look like an Indian. Yeah, sunglasses. Yeah. So they're cleansing the Gundicha temple so they could bring Jagannath there, because the Rath Yatra procession goes from the big temple to Gundicha. So they're cleansing the temple now. This is what we're talking. After the inside of the temple was cleansed, the Lord again allotted areas for the devotees to cleanse. The Lord then ordered everyone to cleanse the inside of the temple very perfectly by taking finer dust, straws, and grains of sand and throwing them outside. After Lord Chaitanya and all the Vaishnavas cleansed the temple for the second time, Lord Chaitanya was very happy to see the cleansing work. So it goes on. They're doing a lot of cleaning. They're cleaning. A lot of cleaning. And then they start to clean outside. It says, outside the gate of the temple, outside the gate of the temple, all the roads were also cleansed, and no one could tell exactly how this was done. Purport. In commenting on the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that Mahaprabhu, as the world leader, was personally given instructions on how one should receive Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, within one's cleansed and pacified heart. If one wants to see Krishna seated in his heart, he must first cleanse the heart, as prescribed by Lord Chaitanya in his Shikshashtaka, Chaito Darpana Marjanam. In this age, everyone's heart is especially unclean, as confirmed in the srimadbhagavatam. To wash away all dirty things accumulated within his heart, Mahaprabhu advised everyone to chant Hare Krishna. The first result will be that the heart is cleansed. Similarly, Bhagavatam confirms this statement, Shrimvatam Sukhata. Krishna, who is Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanse the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So yeah, he continues. It's a little long purport, and then he starts Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur starts to discuss what are the things that need to be cleansed from the heart. So there's a general idea that, okay, the heart's unclean. What does that mean? What exactly does that mean? So so this is what he starts. This is what he says here. One often, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed outside the temple, fearing that the grains of sand would again come within. In this connection, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that even though one may become free from the desire for fruitive activity, sometimes the subtle desire for fruitive activity again comes into being within the heart. And then he gives some examples. One often thinks of conducting business to improve devotional activity, but the contamination is so strong that it may later develop into misunderstanding, described as kutinati, fault-finding, and pratishtasha, the desire for name and fame and for high position. So, someone, a devotee may think, hey, well, I'm going to engage in some business, and I'm going to make a lot of money for Krishna. And then they start engaging in business and making a lot of money, and then they don't engage in Krishna service. And then they just get into this whole cycle of making money, and then they actually never really engage in Krishna service. This is what he's saying here. Sometimes one enters into that, and then they actually don't follow through. So that's a contamination within the heart. And then he says, kutinati, fault-finding, and then pratishtasha, desire for name and fame, for high position. Jiva himsa, envy of other living entities, then accepting things forbidden in the Shastra. Desire for material gain, hankering for popularity. The word kutinati means duplicity. As an example of pratishtasha, one may attempt to imitate Haridas Thakur by living in a solitary place. One's real desire may be for name and fame. In other words, one thinks that fools will accept one to be as good as Haridas Thakur just because one lives in a solitary place. These are all material desires. A neophyte devotee is certain to be attacked by other material desires as well, namely desires for women and money. In this way, the heart is again filled with dirty things and becomes harder and harder, like that of a materialist. Gradually, one desires to become a reputed devotee or an avatar. Incarnation, when you really got some material desires, you just want to become an avatar, you really fall down, right? The word jiva himsa, envy of other living entities, actually means stopping the preaching of Krishna consciousness. Preaching work is described as paropakar, welfare activities for other living entities. Those who are ignorant of the benefits of devotional service must be educated by preaching. If one stops preaching and simply sits down in a solitary place, he is engaged in material activity. Yeah, so then he goes on. So So yeah, there's many things, there could be many material desires, many traps within devotional service that one can become bewildered by. And as history shows, that's been the case many times. Devotees in the past, devotees in the present, devotees in the future, sometimes they have issues with certain things like this is being described. So, and some they just completely fall into that and they don't come out in this life. Some fall into it to lesser degrees and they're still practicing. But there is, even if one falls into a big degree or small degree, whatever degree, there's chance of coming out, obviously. But better if one could just not fall into it. So therefore, the idea is to think about and read about and find out what are these dangers in devotional service and try to avoid them. Pray to Krishna, please help me. Pray to Radha Giridhari. Pray to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this way, one could just avoid it altogether. Prabhupada would say that. He said, I would pray every night. Prabhupada said, I prayed every night. Now, of course, Prabhupada, we all accept him as Paramahamsa. I mean, we may disagree on so many different things in Krishna consciousness, right? Maybe. There's a possibility. It's a big society. But everybody accepts Prabhupada as, anybody who's a follower, they accept Prabhupada as Paramahamsa. But Prabhupada was praying every night. You know what he was praying? He's saying, oh, I'm praying I don't fall in Maya, please protect me. So, we could also pray. If Prabhupada could pray, we could also pray. We should pray. If Prabhupada's praying, we should pray, definitely. So, yeah, there's many things we need to know about, many things we need to avoid, and therefore that's the benefit of devotee association, is that if we allow devotees to get close to us, they will help us in times of need. They'll actually save our lives, save our spiritual lives. So there's many things that could be said, but time is ticking, and it's time to stop. So does anyone have any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks, Balaram, for the class.
Yeah.
I didn't catch it all, but what I heard was pretty good. I guess you're talking about business and Krishna's service.
Yeah.
And it seems that it's important to understand what that means, because if we don't understand what that means, then we can have no sort of outlet, right? Because if it's only, if engaging our money or our actions in Krishna's service means only coming to the temple, then there's very limited things that we can do, right? If we have families to support and stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess one realization that I've had recently is that understanding, as you're saying, Paramatma, or Krishna, is in the heart of all living entities. And so if we're trying to focus on Krishna in everyone's heart and take care of others, to the highest degree that we can in every situation that we can, then we can actually be engaged in Krishna service, including, our friends, our family, our children. So, well, do you confirm that, or?
Yeah, Krishna consciousness is not limited to any particular place or practically anything. There's no material obstacles. There's no material impediments. Means, it's not really limited. So, So yeah, if Krishna consciousness was just limited to the temple and temple life, then everybody not in the temple would be having a big problem. But it's not like that. So one can engage in family life or in making money, but yeah, there's a Krishna conscious way to do it. Following spiritual principles, following sadhana, and using some of that money for propagation of Krishna consciousness. So it's not discouraged. It's for a lot of people encouraged. And yeah, I mean, without money, we wouldn't have much of a society, ISKCON, because I mean, how is the temple run? It runs by money. How is that temple being built in Mayapur? TOVP, a lot of money. So yeah, nothing wrong with that. But yeah, what you said makes sense. But just the idea of engaging, it's like Prabhupada said you should, interesting he used this analogy, but he said you should know how to catch the big fish without getting soaked by the water, without being affected. So to enter into the material world and to engage things and people and money and all types of energy within Krishna service, that's good, that's necessary. But in the process, not to become engulfed by it, not to become conquered by it. So that's the challenge sometimes, because we're dealing with material energy, we're dealing with like preaching. Like there was this one devotee, he was going to these parties to preach, and they were serving out alcohol, and he said, "Oh well, I don't want these people to think I'm too weird, so I better start drinking a little alcohol here." And before you know, and he was going to marry this nice devotee girl, and before you know it, he's just drinking alcohol, and he married one of the girls at the party. And for years, like decades, he's been just in that situation. So yeah, we have to be careful. I mean, sometimes out of necessity, or out of there's just a need for it, or whatever, out of circumstance, brahmachari, may preach or talk with a woman, with a woman. And there may be many cases like that.
Or a man.
Or a man, that's true. But in this particular case, if the brahmachari is attracted to women, attracted to women, then the brahmachari says, "Oh well, I'm teaching her about Krishna consciousness. I'm giving whatever. Whatever the thought.
Inspiring her.
Yeah, I'm inspiring her. Exactly. That's a good one. Thank you for that. I'm inspiring her. And okay, fine. There may be something like that going on, but one has to be careful that there's not something else going on, because as Shastra says, women are like fire and men are like butter. So when they come in contact, they just melt. Therefore Prabhupada said the sannyasis and the brahmacharis, you could stamp it on their forehead. He said, keep in a cool place. Like the butter's cool, keep the butter in a cool place.
Cold showers.
Yeah. So one may do that, may engage or speak, sometimes, right, out of necessity or whatever. But, yeah, they have to be careful that it doesn't become too much of the minds aren't becoming attached to each other. Now, if the brahmachari wants to get married, okay, fine. Maybe. But if a brahmachari is wanting to be a brahmachari, want to stay a brahmachari, then... So my point is that's an example of engaging in preaching or something like that, and then getting sidetracked. That's what I'm saying. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's about being honest with yourself, right? No matter what the position is, whether you're in the temple or outside of the temple.
Yeah.
Because just like you said, somebody within the temple is can easily fall into this trap too. I mean, we've seen even quote unquote, more elevated devotees or senior devotees that are supposed to be on this higher platform, and they kind of get sucked into that too.
Yeah, the best and the brightest.
Yeah.
Maya likes the best and the brightest.
Yeah.
Right? It's especially fun taking somebody... now, of course, Maya's not some, it's her service. I mean, she's supposed to test people, right? But at least you could think on a mundane example, or like a crude example, that people who are out to get people, out to destroy people's lives in different ways, it's the greatest if you could really mess up somebody's life who's a together person. It means the best and the brightest. If you could really mess with them, then yeah, that's really nice. So yeah, you could say that Maya, she likes the best and the brightest. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that the best and the brightest have to fall prey, to Maya. It's not like I'm saying that, but there may be some attempts, Like my spiritual master, I consider him one of the best and the brightest, but there's many best and brightest, but he was in Juhu, and there's this big fight going on, huge fight going on with the land and Prabhupada, and they're trying to cheat Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, there are people arranging to just make the devotees look bad and all types of horrible things like that. Just really paint a bad picture of ISKCON, the devotees, Prabhupada. And in many ways, they're successful for some time, and then they were not successful. They built a big temple. So one particular time, there was Mr. Nair was there and other people, and they arranged that my spiritual master, who was a young brahmachari at the time, about 24 years old. They arranged that he go somewhere with them. And he got in the back seat, and there was some woman there. There was a few other of the men there, but there was some woman there. And they specifically arranged that, like that. And he said that, he said this, so therefore I'm saying it, because I don't think he minds, because he said it publicly and all that. So he said that the woman, she actually she put her hand on his leg, and started moving up on his leg. And then he said within his mind he was thinking that for myself, yeah, I may be able to be attracted to this and be allured by this. But then he thought, but I can't do this because of Prabhupada. If Prabhupada, I can't make Prabhupada look bad. And if Prabhupada finds out about this, not finds out, but in other words, he didn't want to, go any further because of Prabhupada, So, and he said that, which was interesting, he said that for the devotees for themselves, they may be able to do all types of stupid things, but for Prabhupada, they can't, they just can't bring themselves to do that. So anyways, whatever. So time went on, and what happened is they would, this woman, she would come to the land looking for him regularly. And he said that she was, she was a well-known prostitute within Juhu, in Bombay. So they're specifically, sending her to try to, destroy his life and his reputation. So, but when she would come, he'd always just, go hide somewhere and run around. So
he was like a modern Haridas.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, anyways, that came up. All right. Does anyone have any other questions or comments? It's a Kadashi today, so you can chant extra rounds, hear about Krishna more, don't eat beans and grains. So, Kadashi is a good day. It's a day, make advancement. Sometimes devotees think, oh, it's a bad day. I don't need to get I don't get to eat rice and beans and other things that I want to eat. One devotee told me, he said, I don't like Ekadashi. I said, why? He said, because you can't eat any grains, it's just horrible. So, but it's a good day. So, all right. Grantaraj srimadbhagavatam ki jai.